Anyway, let's continue with the action. We're at hand 200. We got 800 hands total. I'd imagine that things are going to slow down a little bit. Like, we're going to have to take more time on each hand as we go. Anyway, 3-bet ace 10. I think we talked about this a lot in the last one. The guy's opening a wide range from the cutoff. We expect him to fold a lot, and this is a reasonably strong hand that we think is probably ahead of his cutoff opening range. And also, we can probably make more money by 3-betting it than flatting it, right?
Yeah. I mean, I really like it, and the sizing. I mean, we do go massive, and it is very exploitable if he knew which kind of hands we were doing it with. I think we are going to be bluffing here a lot more than, like, we probably won't go that big with aces, don't tell him, mate. But yeah, I don't think somebody with, like, the stack sizes are just such that if he does want to 4-bet bluff, he's going to have to go to like 10k. Yeah. And if he's just min-raising some rando hand from the cutoff, just trying to get a steal through, I don't think he's probably looking to invest another.
He doesn't want to throw down.
Yeah, exactly.
He definitely doesn't want to battle. He's just going to step off. Very simple. Excellent pot control, super ownage with the king 2 suited. Guys, check out his bet size on the turn. Less than 1/5 of the pot. It's a good one. Just in case I click through with the 3 deuce and I'm clicking through with the 9 deuce. Yeah. See, I knew he was going to open one of those hands. Antes and stuff. Gotta attack when there's antes. Alright, new table. Not going to play that, not going to play that. Probably going to play an ace queen. And, okay. I'd like to know what you think about DKH's defending range on the button here and why you didn't just c-bet this low board with ace queen.
I think he's what are the blinds? I think he's going to have a lot of pocket pairs, and he's still going to have quite a lot of pocket pairs and suited connectors, and he does fold all his broadways. Mm-hmm. I think we get peeled against a certain amount.
Mm-hmm. I think personally, I would probably see bet this quite large. I think the main factor is whether we think that he's going to be floating a lot with lots of his Broadway hands. Say if he has, I don't know, just like King Jack with the King of Diamonds, whether we think he's going to be floating. And I think one of the main ways we can do to make people do this a lot less is c-bet somewhere in between half and 2/3. Whereas I think if we make a normal MTT sizing hit, we then keep in the majority of his range. So, in my opinion, it's either a check fold or it's c-bet large with the intention of shutting down on the turn.
And I heard the check fold, which for a second I was like, whoa. I think it should be dependent on sizing. Like, if the guy bets 1/3 of the pot when you check to him, I think you probably should reverse float.
Yeah.
At least.
It's just kind of hard though. Like, you can't do much on many runouts.
No, you just got to turn an ace or a queen. But if they bet small enough, you are getting a decent price to go for that, and decent odds if you can show down your hand. But he'd have to bet really small. I'm just saying, like,
yeah,
wouldn't check fold to just like any sizing. Right, nice turn, nice win. On we go. Defend and easy fold. If your 10-4 was suited on hand 221, would you have peeled getting this 11-1 here? Or if the 10 was like a 6, would you have peeled?
I would with this 10-6. Just I think my general rule in these situations, if you're getting these ludicrous pot odds where especially the big blind isn't going to be raising too much with the short stack there, is that you want to be calling with hands that can just make a big hand. 10-4 off just isn't going to make a big hand just ever, unless you flop just like 4-4 or some kind of 2-pair. 10-4 2-pair, but yeah, if it's suited, you can make a flush, and if it's somehow connected, then you can make a straight. And I think the general rule for that is, complete if you can make a big hand. If not, fold, and it's not worth it.
Makes sense. And yeah, the funny thing is, even when you do make 2-pair with 10-4, unless it's top 2, you don't feel great. And if you're trying to play a huge pot 5 ways, you still don't feel great.
Yeah.
Same with trips. Like, you need to flop a boat. You need, like, someone to have ace 10 or ace 4 and it to be 10-10-4 or 10-4-4 for it to really be a money-making spot. Cool. Okay, so you're 3-betting with the full 3x sizing. Was this a thing you were doing for most of this tournament, Ben?
Just in like most tournaments, I know most people kind of at the moment 3-bet like 2.2 or 2x, but
Yeah.
like the one I ran deep in the PCA and stuff, and just most tournaments recently, I've just been 3-betting 3x. Like a lot of regs, just they will be looking for spots to 4-bet other regs because they know people are being aggressive, but I think a lot of the time they just don't choose to do it against me because you 3-bet 3x, they've got to make it so big that they just kind of not used to it, and they're like, they think for a bit, and they're like, I'll pick a better spot.
Yeah.
Like, so that is my kind of standard 3-bet sizing early on.
Yeah.
It's a lot harder to play against. I think people are kind of used to peeling. You've been out of position when you're 50 bigs deep. They can just, if you 2x it, they can just peel with so much.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that the people who are gonna get the best results is generally going to be the people who are going against the grain. So I love what Ben said. He's like, most people are 3-betting to 2.2x, so I 3-bet to 3x because people know how to deal with what they're used to dealing with. And when you do something unorthodox, even if it may look bad at first, if people don't know how to play correctly against it, then it's going to be good. It's going to yield good results.
It's like how they'll react to you, but you don't really know what you're doing it with because no one else does it. So they haven't had practice, but you have.
Yeah, exactly. And like, as soon as people figure out how to react to something, that's when it no longer becomes good, and you got to figure out what the next new thing is. So like back in the day, people would be like, 3x, 3-betting is horrible. And it's like, well, people were folding a lot then, so you could 3-bet small. Now people are peeling a lot, so maybe you need a 3-bet larger. So that's good. And the c-bet sizing is obviously very good, very small. No set, no bet. Oh, you didn't take your 8-1 and you would have made us. He probably had an overset anyway. That's sizing. Nuko Naka. Oh. Aggressive defense against Nuko Naka. If this guy had raised the button where you have ace-5 of clubs, would you still probably be leaning towards 3-bet? Is this a stack size thing, or is this just a range thing? I'm curious.
I had hands in from before, and I think he'd just joined the table and had a big stack, and I think he will just be doing what we're doing and looking to open quite a lot. Mm-hmm. People will, and I just did the same before, made it massive so that he's got a big stack in the million, and so it's just I don't think people will be looking to get it in marginal spots, or if he wants to 4-bet, he's got to go pretty big. Mm-hmm. So I don't think there's that much he can do with a lot of his range. I didn't expect him to peel too often, but he did.
Yeah. I think you're right. It's a stack size, and it's part of where we are in the position of the tournament. It's a stage where people don't go mental, and they don't expect other people to go mental as well. So when they see this kind of 3-bet sizing, maybe if it were on the final 3 tables, they'd be like, he's probably just trying to steal the blinds. It's worth so much now. But at this point, I think we're going, again, like what you said, we're going against what they think we'll do and what other people do quite a lot. And it's just being that one step. It might be one step behind them, but if they adjust badly to it, then it works, so it's fine. And it might be one step ahead of them.
Yeah. So we semi-bluff with our 5 outer, and what was actually the best hand? Take it down. Oh. I see you don't take no shit from nobody.
I'm actually kind of proud watching this.
Yeah, this hand was kind of fun because he used most of his time back. Are you watching the Queen 10 hand?
Yeah, I've seen he 3-bet you, and you said, all right, we can play a bigger pot. Doesn't need to be too big, but I'll be the one who's dictating the action and calling the shots here. So you hit him with the Timby-sized 4-bet.
Yeah, I just clicked it, and he tanked I think his whole time bank on the flop.
And all you did was bet a fucking third of the pot. Awesome. The power of having the lead, guys. People gotta make the hands after, and it's hard to make hands, and it's hard to peel when you're, you have to call a significant portion of your chips. And for the more amateurish players out there, it's really hard to peel when they're like, "Fuck, that's like a 7,000 chip bet, man. That's like a lot of chips, man." So like against the amateur players, actually, the deeper you get in the tournament, the more effective these really small bets and these really small raises to take the initiative will be in terms of their power, because they're not looking in terms of big blinds or relative to the pot. They're just like the raw number of chips. Like, wow, he bet like $750,000, dude. I don't know if this is a 3 million chip hand, man. That needs to be a big hand.
Such a career impersonation.
I have been watching the World Poker Tour since the first episode ever aired. I've been exposed to all the pokers. Alright. Kings, all the streets. Alright. That's a very reggy guy.
Yeah, he's a sicker.
Yeah, I think something quickly to say. I like Ben's sizing on the flop and turn because there are quite a few draws, and I think he'd expect us to be barreling, but apparently I need to remember where his Mazzari guy is quite well known, and Ben knew that he was quite well known. Yeah. So I think when it comes to the river, yeah, if we're playing against the worst player, we might want to bet small because he'll be like, oh, ace queen, or he might be bluffing, but it's only bet small, so I can call. But against a good player, I think he would think if we were bluffing this, we would go bigger. Because I think when we go this sizing in this spot particularly, it looks really, really value-y. Mm-hmm. So I think against I need Mazzaro, we should probably go about 16 or 17k to give him a chance of hero calling.
Yeah. Makes sense. Probably won't open that, nor that. Jason probably would have played the 4-3 of clubs. Learn from Daniel. Gotta play all those little suited connectors. You make sneaky hands with those suited connectors. They never see it coming. I never see it coming because they never make a hand to actually do anything with. Interesting. Is this 3x raising something we're going to see more? Are you mixing up your raise sizes throughout the tournament? Because if you are, I love it.
Yeah, quite often. Just depending on different spots.
I think it's something really good to start. If people don't do it, just start just dabbling with it and just seeing which spots and you think might be better to 3x. Even if you're not sure about it, just try it out a few times. If it starts working, then yeah, it's fine. And in this specific situation, I think it's good because we haven't done it before, and people won't know that much that Ben's that good at poker, because nobody knows anyone pretty much apart from just like the top 10 players.
He's got a Grips avatar. He's clearly a fish.
Yes. Yeah, we all suck. But I don't think people are just gonna automatically expect in this spot that he's just gonna come up with just a raggy hands, because it just doesn't seem like a spot where he's just gonna go for a steal too often, because the blinds still aren't that big. And yeah, I think this one as well is where it's really fun to do.
And like the stacks around the table, like no one can do anything except put their stack in, really.
Yeah.
Except for battles, but
that's true. I got a question for you just before we get into this 5-10 suited hand. Harry wants to know if you watched the Poker Stars replay where Stapleton commented.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we watched it as soon as it came out.
By the way, would you guys be interested in doing a hand history with all the cards exposed? Because I actually went out and recorded the footage from the final table with all the cards up, so you guys could do that if you wanted.
Yeah, that'd be sick. I mean, we still haven't seen some of the hands that they had, so...
Yeah, we haven't watched it all yet, but yeah.
Okay, I'll send that over after we're done today, for sure. Okay, so you defend 5-10 suited and peel to a C-bet, and turn goes check, check, and OMG, is he bluffing?
Okay, so when we get to the river on this point, I think that we can safely say we don't have the best hand like so often. But if we think of the hands that do beat us, a lot of it's just like random ace X and hands that just can't call. If we think of the hands that he could have that can call, we have the king of spades, most of which would have bet the turn. We got the queen of spades, most of which would have bet the turn, and the jack of spades, most of which would have bet the turn. So by turning our hand into a bluffer, I think we're just bluffing out a load of the one pair hands that beat us, or sometimes just like the small spade hands that beat us. It looks quite difficult for us to have turned up on the river with a hand with no hand at all, because we're hitting the flop and we've at least hit a third pair or something. I don't think many people would expect us to turn it into a bluff in that spot. So I really like the bluff in the end.
And like even the hands that we have beat, like whatever, so they're gonna fold to our bet anyway. We get to win this pot against more hands by betting than we would by checking, and the risk really isn't that high when he's betting half the pot.
Yeah, I completely
10-5 of diamonds again? No, not gonna be playing at that time. San Francisco 49ers? No. I'm gonna get a poster with all the names of the poker hands so that I can just say ridiculous things. Like when you get queen 3, I'll be like, oh, we got the gay waiter.
Why?
It's okay. It's called the gay waiter because the queen, like a gay guy being a drama queen or whatever, and the 3 is a tray, so it's a queen holding a drama queen holding a tray. It's a pretty far-reaching thing, but the queen 3 is called the gay waiter.
Pretty tenuous link.
Yeah, they were really trying with that one. Okay, so we call a 3-bet with king queen. We're holding on. What the fuck?
But looking over, just after Ben had made this move, and it was the first time I almost hugged him, but we didn't quite make it to that.
I think this is one of the hands that you can kind of see that Living with Charlie's done something, at least. I definitely wouldn't have been doing this before, so it was...
Well, yeah, tell us about this monstrosity, because to me it looks like suicide.
Alright, we'll break it down from pre-flop.
Okay.
First,
Okay.
I need Mazzari is going to be 3-betting a lot in this position because he's a very good player, and I think he's going to be bluffing a lot more than he's going to have value hands just because of the thing before. Like, he's going to be flatting queens here, he's going to be flatting sometimes even kings, and he's going to be flatting ace-king. Most of the time, for value, he's going to be 3-betting kings and aces. We block kings, so there are very few combinations of value hands, so most of the time it's going to be a bluff. King-queen is doing very well against that bluffing range. So we're going to be dominating him quite a lot, and we're just going to have higher cards than him. So I think peeling is a lot better, as it plays well for value. On the flop, I think there's nothing much to say. It's just always going to be a check call. But when we get to the river, a lot of the hands that he will have 3-bet and given up with are hands like ace 7 suited, something like that. Say ace deuce suited, and obviously he can still have hands that we beat, but the problem is they will probably all turn it into a bluff on the river. And if he does decide to bluff just like 25k, it's so difficult for us to then check down, because it doesn't look that great. Well, I think the shove itself looks like I need Mazzari can have an ace so often that it looks almost a bit too obvious that we would. That it looks so dumb that we would bluff that position, and unless he has some specific read that Ben's this hyper aggressive player, I don't think he's ever going to be bluffing. If we look at the hands that we'd be doing for value, we can have Queen Jack, we can have any sets, so 6s, 9s, kings, and 10s,
7, 8,
and we can have 7, 8. And that might be it.
We can still have aces.
Aces, maybe ace king, but
I
think more of the hands than the first ones I said.
So we're floating the flop with queen jack, jack 10, if we have those.
Yeah, I think so, especially if we have queen jack of hearts, clubs or spades, just with the back.
Could he have ever checked back a hand like ace king on the turn?
Yeah, I think that is the main hand that we're we should be worried about being called by. But if we think through combinations, I don't think he's going to be 3-betting that pre-flop at all.
Yeah, I think it's more like he's got one well, he hasn't really got any combos with kings left because I think he bets it on the turn, and there's only one left anyway. So I think it's just the three left of aces.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he might bet the turn with aces sometimes. So
more like 1.5 combinations.
Yeah, we're getting called so rarely.
Okay.
It needs to work like 66% of the time.
Yeah.
And it's just going to, if we're just getting called by like 3 combos or something, and then, his ace deuces and stuff, we only need him to have, just so few combos of like ace deuces, ace 3 and stuff. If he folds them, it's just unprofitable.
I agree. And it's funny. I was actually just writing an article the other day on Galfon's G-Bucks, and I'd never actually written anything about it, so I put it all down, and then I was like breaking down like bet sizing and stuff, and then I was like typing out overbets and seeing how often they had to work, and I'm like, wow, you can bet like 5x the pot and it doesn't have to work like some crazy 99% of the time or something. And then I was like, oh, like overbetting like 1.5 and 2x and even 3x the pot, like it's not like that crazy.
Yeah,
I was so shocked when I actually like looked at the math of it like in front of me. I'm like, oh, okay, it's not this crazy high risk play. It's just good.
Yeah, especially in sports like that where their value ranges are just so narrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for people watching, a certain level of when we are overbetting the river for a bluff and for value, if you want, again, it's possible we want to be balanced. But mainly as a bluff, we want to make sure they have a capped range. And by capped, I mean that they can't have many or any nutted hands. So they can't have the nuts or the second nuts or the third nuts. And it's just generally a rule for overbetting if you want to start trying to do it, just making sure that they can't have the nuts. And that you can have the nuts, yeah. That always helps.
Yeah. It's good when you can actually have the hand that you should do it with. Because if you think it's a spot where your opponent's either gonna call, like with whatever hands he's gonna call with, he's gonna call regardless of the size, then when you're value betting, you should go for the maximum possible payment. So it makes sense to overbet with our value hands sometimes as well. All right, so 6s, steal, 69, no thanks. That was yesterday, not today. Ace-8 suited, raise and take, probably fold that. Oh, you did not fold that. You went to town with Jack-3 suited. Let's see what happened. Okay. Flop a combo draw, definitely semi-bluffing.
Yeah, this was approaching the bubble, so we were starting to open wider.
Okay, that makes sense then. So I guess on the turn you're check calling because you figure whatever he called. Once he called the flop, he's got minimum of 10. Any pocket pairs he flatted with pre, if he had those to begin with, are gone. And any Broadway hand that he called with pre-flop that called on the flop is not going to fold on the brick turn. So I guess you're just trying to get the river for as cheap as possible.
Yeah, and sometimes like he might have 5-6 of hearts, and if we barrel, he folds, but if he checks back, and
I think I personally actually, on the turn, especially if it's approaching the bubble, I might be more tempted to just make 18 to 20k. Where he can call with a 10, but he doesn't have that many 10s in his range, really, and blockers already on the board. And I think he has to fold all his hands, just like Ace Jack and Ace 9 suited. Anything that isn't at least 2 pair.
Yeah.
So and then we do have equity against those hands. They've got like quite a lot of equity still.
Yeah.
And it's quite rare that we're drawing dead. So I think personally I would rather go for a big barrel, but equally it's still check the way Ben played. I think is going to be the second best or best way.
Cool. Yeah, it looks like he has a hand that might have folded out, but you never know. If he's going to call with Queen 8 suited in the first place, he's probably not going to want to fold when he's made a pair. The more selective, the more liberal they are pre-flop with their calls, the more liberal they're probably going to be post-flop with their calls as well. And the tighter they are pre-flop, the more selective they'll be on the flop as well. It's it's a good general rule. It doesn't characterize all players, but it definitely rings true for a lot of them. All right, so we get it in good, and I think this is an interesting thing to look at because some people don't realize this. When someone just has one overcard to your pocket pair, they have about 30%. But the power of being suited and being connected is very significant because we see here, despite the fact that we have the 9, this guy can't do anything by hitting a 9. And he purely has one overcard. The fact that he can make a bunch of straights and flushes bumps him like 10%. This is one of the reasons why like making big shoves with King Queen suited and Queen Jack suited and Jack 10 suited isn't all that bad because even when you get called by a hand that really has you coolered, the straight and flush draw equity bumps you up a lot in terms of your winning percentage. The difference between 30 and 40% is really big. So I just wanted to point that out. And that we won a 50K pot as well, which is always all right.
I think the spot is it's a lot closer than it looks because I think I remember Ben saying this was before the bubble.
Yeah, it was really close. I think sometimes it just changed it a lot. He was multi-tabling a lot too.
Yeah.
And just playing all the majors. And I think someone who would just one-tabling the million, and it's like 100 people from the bubble, I probably would be folding. Because I think they'll just be way too concerned with they just fold everything. But I think, a reg, they are still going to be shoving.
Yeah.
Wide enough that it's profitable.
Yeah.
Nine is the poker stars, not so yeah. 9 is 2 flop sets.
9 always. I think I said that too many times in the videos back in the day, and you guys have actually believed that it's the truth now.
Oh, it's the truth.
Yeah.
It's just supposed to be a fun joke, and it's like I heard Grip say this like 30 or 40 times. I think it's got to be a real thing at this point. All right, take the odds, and not interested in that. So we must be on the literal bubble here. And Shaggy wants to be the bubble boy. He stop and go to you? He stop and go to you.
Yeah, I was quite surprised. I thought it'd be folding, it was the bubble. It's just that thing where he's, I just thought he'd be shoving all his hands because it's the bubble that he wanted to get in. I didn't think he'd be flatting, but...
I'll tell you, if he didn't hit this board, he definitely would have folded. Like, if it came like 9 high or something, he would have check folded so fast because he's taking that $300 for sure.
And we would have had a decent laugh with him folding with like 80% of his stacking or something.
Yeah. And he was actually probably pissed that he hit this flop because he's like, fuck. Like, if I had a pair, that'd be cool, but like just a straight draw, like I can't fuck fold, but man, I want to put my tournament in with king high. Yeah. Now we're up against 4 fours. Count them. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 fours. GG's. So whenever the blinds go up, we're probably in the money. That's usually how the Sunday Million works. So we try to apply the pressure, and Jigga says no.
I think this is still the bubble.
Yeah, we're still the bubble until the blind hits 3K.
Oh, okay.
It's usually the bubble. I know because I've tried to hold on for a min cash many times in the Sunday Million.
Oh, did you way to a min?
Yeah. One time I cashed the Sunday 500 with starting stack, and that one hits the money early because people play so aggro, but the structure is so slow. Like I think the big blind was only 2K. Like I had 5 bigs and started. I mean, I didn't have any spots, but it was pretty funny that I cashed with the starting stack. I had no problem making free money on starting stack. Nice spot with the Queen 7 suited, Ben. You really had these guys pegged for aces and ace king.
What were you on about?
3. You got Queen 7 suited. Yeah, that didn't go perfectly.
You're trying to squeeze? I mean, I don't think Masari's ever flat. I don't think Masari's flattened him too wide to begin, unless Nuko Nako is crazy. But then, wouldn't you think that Masari would 3-bet with his weaker hands here? I think it's a little ambitious by you. You can tell me why I'm wrong.
Nuko Nako, I don't think he was that great. I think Masari is a sicko, and they're still 40 bigs deep. I still think he's calling with a lot of hands that just have post-flop ability. and Nuko had been opening pretty wide still, so I thought it was fine.
Okay.
Just putting a disclaimer out there, I do not support this squeeze.
Yeah, but I mean,
But I think it is going to look a lot worse than it is, because there will be some situations where Nuko is opening very light, and that means that if he is opening loads and folding loads of 3-bets, that means Aini Masara is going to be 3-betting his hands like jacks and tens and sometimes tens and ace king, which means that he has very few hands that he will be able to do anything against us with.
yeah, I think we should also throw a disclaimer to the audience that Ben is the one who won 170 Gs, not Charlie and not me. So at the end of the day, whatever Ben did is right, and our opinions are just our opinions, and they're clearly not profitable or correct. Aces wins. Nice hand.